Hey everybody, what is going on? It is your boy Izlo33, welcoming you back to the Anarchy Analysis series, where teams from across the globe are culminating in London for the League of Legends MSI 2023 tournament. We've got best of threes coming at you, we've got best of fives also coming at you, but there is something special coming from me to you guys. We are going to be covering every single game, all the best of threes, all the best of fives, in an Anarchy Analysis stream after their matches have happened. So every day, bar Mondays, we're going to be covering some good old-fashioned league content, except for the semi-final on the 20th, because I'm actually at the event, so who knows what you'll get for that. Possibly a stream the next day. I don't know, but I'm super stoked because we have 4 best of threes on the docket for today, with a lot of big competition on top of it. So without further ado, let us get into today's opening matchup. We kick things off with PSG taking on Detonation Focus Me in our opening best of 3. And spoiler alert guys, I expect a lot of blood on the Rift. Probably the bloodiest matchup we could get, as of the teams at MSI, these two are the bloodiest with the highest KDA in this setup, this tournament. And you've got to look at how these two teams have played, because overall it's been a lot of tower focus out of PSG versus a more so get first blood and then steamroll through the opponents with dragon pickups. That's how DFM have kind of played it, who have been atop of the LJL for God knows how long, similarly with the PCS for PSG. But these two teams have faced off several times before at an MSI, and also at Worlds on the odd occasion. DFM have been on the cusp of greatness for their region every single year, but falling short nearly every time. They've returned here with a very solid squad, and I, for one, could see them being a sort of dark horse in their group. However, PSG, they've had a bit of a shock time in terms of international tournaments over the previous 2 years, kind of falling off from that form that we've known them for. But here, going up against DFM, I have given them a 2-1 win in the opening best of 3. I just think how these two teams play off against one another. Their styles are quite similar, but there's still a lot of difference between how they want to attack each other. And I personally think we could see PSG steamroll or have a very difficult time against a DFM squad who probably is coming to play. Teams that probably have the most support in this tournament, and I expect the copper box roof to be blown off of its hinges. It's a big one because these two teams are probably the biggest sort of fan-orientated organizations out there. The G2 Army have been dominant in the LEC studio all year, and Loud are just loud. Let's be honest, any tournament they go to, it is an absolute bloodbath in terms of their crowd reaction. Now, this matchup is a bit different because you've got the winners of the LLA, I believe it's the Brazilian League, or it's the CBLOL. CBLOL is probably the right one. But the CBLOL winners taking on G2, a team that didn't even finish top 2 in spring. Need I remind you, the LEC is split into 2 splits, and we've covered them very heavily on our channel. G2 kind of struggled in the spring playoffs with losses to Koi and then losses to BDS and MAD. It was fairly demolition-esque, shall we say, because G2 just could not perform. They could not get it up, and realistically speaking, they're here on merits of past. They're not the strongest team, I think, in this group. And you going up against Loud, who, dare I say, probably are very strong. In fact, out of the PCS the LJL and the LEC representatives in here, I think they're quite strong. I think they're probably like third, second best out of them three. And the reason I say second is because I've got G2 in first. I'm somehow expecting G2 to pull through here. We've covered them through this split and said their bot-centric style is very strong. They had a bit of a worrying stage in the playoffs because everyone expected them to do well, but they were kind of still sticking on that Lucian Nami that we've seen drop off heavily in the LEC. And it was weird because we'd known them for being strong in the bot lane, but they just were a bit too stubborn in my mind. They played against Koi in their second games. They did good, in a sense that they were unpredictable. They brought some wackiness that Koi weren't ready for. And I think you're going to need that if you're G2 going up against the likes of Loud, excuse me. I just think G2 need to bring out something incredible here. So I've gone with them 2-1 to win this one. But it could go either way. I feel like I could say that about a lot of these matchups except for one where I've clearly just seen a mass demolition. But regardless, let's move over into our third matchup. Let's get it. It's pretty much a stomp in my mind as Movistar R7 or Rainbow 7 take on Billy Gaming, or BLG is what we're going to be referring to them in this video. I say this is a stomp in my mind because I think BLG are going to decimate this team 2-0 as it's just a masterclass of LPL talent. You've got Bin, who's just been trashing people all split long with his carry-orientated style, going up against a guy who's played tanks the majority of his split in Bong. I'll be honest, this is the first time I'm reading some of these picks and player names. But I think the big battle between these two teams will be in the jungle, as Oddie has been kind of this superstar performer, high KDA player, I'll be honest, but his damage is quite low, as he's been playing this Vi predominantly, and Vi, if you know, is very good at locking down carries in the likes of the Jinx and Zeri. And speaking of Zeri, Elk, the ADC for BLG lineup, has been just demolishing people on that Zeri. I'll be honest, you look at the damage share between these two teams and how the KDAs are split, the KP is a lot higher on the Movistar side, as BLG obviously play a hell of a lot more games than the R7 squad. You realise that these KDAs get tarnished, so you can't really rely on that for info. What you can rely on, though, is the play styles that these two teams have gone for. And BLG have been prefacing on team fighting around objectives. They've been controlling the early game. 51% of their games they've gone first turret blood. And they've been able to translate that into wins in the majority of their games. As for Movistar, they're in a similar sort of steed where their win rate is so high 15 minutes into a game if they're winning. Like, if they're ahead, they just win. It's a very solid squad, but I think that record's going to get tarnished here in the MSI group stage of play-ins. It's a hard best of 3 system when you're not used to them, and there's only 2 regions, I believe, who have been playing best of 3s. Actually, it's 3. It's LCK, it's the LPL, as well as the LEC. The rest of the regions are still stuck in best of 1s, and I think that's going to make it a bit harder for the likes of Movistar R7 to kind of deal with an over-the-series change, because playoffs is only best of 5s. I think they're going to struggle, and realistically speaking, an LPL dominance could quite easily come out from BLG here. Golden Guardians take on the Gigabyte Marines. This is a matchup as old as time, as LCS takes on the VCS. It's the second tournament that GAM are going to be able to attend since COVID. And I'm going to be honest, no one expected the Golden Guardians to be here. Everyone expected GAM to be here. It's going to be intriguing because America tend to struggle against the VCS, as the Gigabyte Marines, I think, will have a bit of a fun time against this squad. In fact, I think this tournament is going to be kind of a learning curve for the Golden Guardians. It's their first international event as an organization, and as a whole, I think we'll probably see them struggle in a lot of their matches. And you've got a lot of rookies. You've also got some quite senior players in the likes of Licorice who have been at these tournaments before. I still think, though, GAM will overpower Golden Guardians. And it's sad to say that as a former LCS enjoyer, someone who has watched a lot of games from these players that are here, I don't think that we'll see anything too special out of GAM or Golden Guardians. I do think that they're probably going to get absolutely decimated by GAM here, Golden Guardians. I've gone 2-1. But I'm just expecting some death. Just some everything between the two rosters. Nothing too particular. But yeah, just Golden Guardians losing. That's my prediction, unfortunately. And unfortunately, that's the end of the video. Thank you very much for joining me. My mind is still trying to process the teams involved. Once we've got a nice bank of data on the newest patch for MSI, I will be a bit more ready and going on in this tournament. But thank you very much for joining me. If you have enjoyed this, be ready for the daily streams starting tomorrow. We've got a couple of games for that. And I'll see you guys then. Peace out.